whether you're struggling with your tackling. So what is the issue with your tackling? We've seen for example, a player's missing a lot of tackles. Is it due to technique? Is it due to reaction speed, tactical awareness? Is it due to because he's scared? He's scared of making the wrong choice. We see that happening a lot. Sometimes players go into that fight, flight, or freeze type of environment where instead of just going for it, they just freeze and not making a choice at all. So it's important to break it down, when you're trying to learn, and you need to make it tough. It needs to be hard. It's under pressure. So when I was still playing, in order to improve my agility on defense, making the right decision and my tactical awareness. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode on our Lessons from the Game podcast with my co-host Pegna, and today is our short form episode where we will be deep diving into the episode we had recently with Anthony Watson. Before that, Ben, just want to check in, my man. How are you doing? How's things going your side?
Yeah, good. Thanks, G. Yeah, looking forward to this. Actually, there were so many gems that came out when we spoke with Anthony. So yeah, it'd be nice to, have a little chat about it.
No, definitely. So what we're trying to do for everybody listening and watching, we want to talk about what were the biggest takeaways for us. Obviously, there were loads of takeaways, but the one thing that definitely stood out for me, Ben, was when Anthony Watson said, the main thing needs to remain the main thing. So to give you guys context, maybe at this time you haven't listened to the episode yet, but what he meant by that was when he was injured with his Achilles tendon, he ruptured his Achilles tendon for the first time, and 4 months in, he had a photo shoot. And in this photo shoot, he caught the ball, and while stepping back to catch the ball, he ruptured it for a second time. So that meant another 9 to 12 months, which was a big lesson that he learned. And what he was trying to share with us was that you should have stayed focused on the rehab process and not focused on off-field distractions. Well, maybe not a distraction, but we often see, Ben, where rugby players tend to forget that they are rugby players and that their main job is to perform on the field. And there's loads of examples that we can give as well, where players get kind of obsessed with building their brand, spending loads of time doing photo shoots and doing PR events. All those things are important. It's part and parcel of being a professional rugby player today. But your main job is to be a rugby player and to perform. And I really enjoy that, what he said. And to own that on a podcast, sharing that publicly, I think for our audience, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, G. I thought that was really powerful as well. And, he spoke about that, and it gave a bit of an insight into some of the decisions that players have to make, especially when they're on that upward trajectory and they're doing well, they're getting, well known, they're making some progress, off-field opportunities, endorsements, sponsorships come along. You've been asked to do a bit more. You've been asked to make some decisions that take you away from the main thing. And finding that balance can be tricky, but it was really good to hear him say, keep the main thing and sort of outline what that entailed for him.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's so important because sometimes, another example, sometimes players are more focused on their social life. And I mean, I was no angel. There were times in my career where I might have had a few late nights. And even though it might not have been close to the game, but it would have an impact on your recovery process. It would have an impact on your performance. And our off-field things as well, which we do sometimes overindulging into food or sweets, chocolates and chips and all those type of things. And I definitely agree with you in that sense. Decision making is important. What I'm about to do, will that help me to perform better? Is this impacting my career in a positive nature? The main thing is, and I didn't mean that on purpose, the main thing for rugby players is that you got to stay on track with your process. You got to stay on track with your journey. You got to remind yourself of what you want to achieve as a rugby player. And once again, it ties into your vision. It ties into your why. But, we can go on and on. Ben, I know you have some other unbelievable takeaways from the episode with Anthony Watson.
Yeah, it was really interesting when we asked him about his skill set, because he had the full court game, didn't he? He could do everything on the field, but he was really good under the high ball. And when we asked him about that, it was really interesting to say that he got good at being under the high ball, and he got so good at it became a strength, because he said something like, I was abysmal at it at the beginning,
Mm.
and so he highlighted it as an area he had to improve. And then I love the way he spoke about how he then put in place a training regime, how to develop that skill, how he broke that skill down, and then how he visualized what he wanted it to look like. He wanted to get high, leading leg high up in the air, certain things. And then he put into place ways that he could practice that, like with using boxing gloves, and ways of making it harder so that when he played in the game on the weekend, it was actually much, much easier than the circumstances he'd been training in. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think we all, at some stage, we all focus on our strengths, which is very important. We've covered this on various episodes. But when we decide, or when we've identified that there's an area that we need to work on, it's really great to break it down. Whether you were prop, you're struggling with the scrum, you need to break it down. What is the area holding you back? What area do you need to focus on? There are different parts to it and different processes. Is it the setup that is getting you back? Is it the engage? Is it your post-engage battles? But even if we have to go, whether you're struggling with your tackling, so what is the issue with your tackling? We've seen for example, a player is missing a lot of tackles. Is it due to technique? Is it due to reaction speed, tactical awareness? Is it due to because he's scared? He's scared of making the wrong choice. We see that happening a lot. Sometimes players go into that fight, flight, or freeze type of environment where instead of just going for it, they just freeze and not making a choice at all. So it's important to break it down, when you're trying to learn, and you need to make it tough. It needs to be hard. It's under pressure. So when I was still playing, in order to improve my agility on defense, making the right decision and my tactical awareness, I would get guys like Brian Abana to step against me. I'd guess the best stepper in the team in that 5 meter channel. And probably 1 out of 10, I wouldn't even touch them. No, or 1 out of 10, I wouldn't even get them. But by improving that, by being so hard and training in how can I say, in an environment where it's really tough, that will help. But it's so easy in the game. And I do the same when it comes to scrummaging with players. If you're a young player and you want to evolve, you need to train against the most experienced guy. Or if you're struggling to develop scrum power, you should be training, you should overload. I call it scrum overload. So you're overloading that scrum. You're adding
I
extra
like that.
weight. You're adding extra resistance so that you can really level up in that skill set.
That's good, Jay. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I love that, and the way that he did it as well. And the good thing about it is he required connections with his teammates when he did that. So he had to work with them. You're going out, they're kicking, they're practicing their skill set, but you're practicing yours, taking that high ball. You're then getting either outside feedback, and he was filming everything and he was reflecting on it, and that's such a key attribute and a trait. We've spoken a lot about it recently because we reflect after every podcast. We say, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? What should we do better next time? And he would do that after every training session. He'd film it and say, okay, I should have got my knees slightly higher. I should have taken off on that lead foot a bit better, and get my hands a bit higher. And I thought that was really interesting as well.
Touching on that, you're talking about instant feedback. I think it's also important that you have a strong connection with your teammates and that you actually give them that freedom to listen. I need your honest feedback. I need you to give it instant feedback. Because sometimes, rugby players can kind of be hesitant to share feedback with their teammates because I don't know if it's a generational thing. They're scared that their teammate might take it the wrong way. So if you are trying to improve on a certain skill or learn or master a new skill, you need to create the space where you can tell your teammates, it's okay. You can give me that feedback. I can handle it. I want to know what I can do better. I need to know what I'm doing wrong. But the importance of your teammates, it's massive because you need buy-in from them. Because imagine you want to work on tackle technique or catching a high ball and they're not in the mood to help you out. So that means the execution quality is going to be poor. You're not going to be training in a kind of like a realistic situation. You can never really replicate what you experience in a game situation, but you can learn to train under pressure, which is important. But there's another one which I would like to talk about, another takeaway, which I really enjoyed as well, that is shared, and a lot of people don't get what happens behind the scenes when it comes to being a professional rugby player. When you're changing teams, it's challenging. Not only does each team have its unique environment. I remember the Bulls back in the day, we had our classic strong Afrikaans environment. We were quite close in being in Pretoria. And he shared his challenges, I won't say challenges, but his perception he had of a new club. He went to Leicester Tigers. He thought it was only black boots, thought they were working only in a certain way where it was completely different. But also the relocation of family. It's not easy for rugby player. I remember when I came to France, the challenges we faced. We didn't have a support system for our family, couldn't speak the language. So yeah, there were loads of takeaways in those episodes.
Yeah, 100% G. That's a really good one. I don't think people understand necessarily the decisions that make. And if you have a happy player who can focus on that main thing because their family are happy, they're settled, they're stable, you often see that's the difference in performance, isn't it?
No, it's massive. I always say, yeah, happy wife, happy life. That's the most important. Your partner needs to be happy. They need to be taken care of. And we don't always value the efforts of the partners behind rugby players. The effort
100%.
they
Yeah.
put in. And we often see it either they are taking care of the children and working. We just saw that with the recent episode as well with Joe Gray. His missus was still running their business and they were growing a family. So it's important. And it comes down to what Anthony also said, the importance of your support network. Because when things are tough, when you have those big setbacks or when you are performing badly, those are the people who matter. Their opinions matter. He also said, you don't want to go be listening to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you don't know at all, and they're just giving their opinion, leaving their comments on different rugby articles. You want to be listening to the people whose opinion actually matters because they will give you the honest truth and actually give you real feedback.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. It was, yeah. And actually, I've just remembered as we've been talking, when we spoke to Charlie Faumuina, he talked about that main thing, didn't he, as well? He got a bit distracted. The property stuff started taking off while he was just coming into the All Blacks.
Yeah.
The coaches had to sit him down, and it's funny actually. Now I reflect on some of these conversations. There's some themes that come up with a lot of these successful people. They've had some serious reflection points and traits that have come through and dominated and meant that, as we used to talk about, success leaves clues. And
I like that. Eddie
yeah,
Jones actually said that.
you can see it, can't you?
And you just use the word there, reflection. I think that's important. We've often spoken about doing your personal audit, but also reflecting. And I think to give people insight, we're still new to podcasting. Okay, Ben, we're still learning. And what we normally do after these episodes, we are debriefing. We're having a chat. Okay, Ben, what did you think about that? Or Ben will say, gee, you could have done that, and vice versa. We're constantly looking at making notes. What can we do better? And sometimes it happens. We have a guest and then an hour runs away like that. And we're like, oh, but we didn't even get to that part. And, I'm so gutted that with Joe, we didn't deep dive into the lineouts, the lineout throwing technique for the hookers. We tried to, I think one of the biggest reflections we had, sometimes we try to cramp in so much in a short space of time, or sometimes we lose time because we're enjoying the chat. We're enjoying the actual discussion, but we are always having a hard look at ourselves in terms of what we can do better to improve this podcast, and what we share with you, we keep ourselves accountable to. And I like last week, Ben, you know it as well. I spoke about the trigger event. I ran that Bronco test and I was just embarrassed and humiliated. I didn't beat my previous time. I realized I was out of shape. But so, guys, by the way, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. It's called Strong, Fit and Focused. That's my personal journey. Ben will be sharing some of his personal journey as well going forward. We're trying to tick all the boxes little by little, but having an ability to reflect not only in the big moments, but on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's good, G. It's really good. And it's important, isn't it, for growth?
So Ben, I know I've been talking a lot about it, and maybe that will give some a great example. I've got my little black book. All right, no, I'm not crazy numbers or anything else, anything devious. So I use this book. I write things down. I keep track of what happened the day, things that are important to me, important to my coaching, important to our other projects. It's called bullet journaling. All right, you can definitely check it out online on YouTube. You just type in bullet journaling. There's so many great videos out there that explain to you the concept. But this allows me to have a proper reflection on my day. How did my day go? What can I do better? What should I do tomorrow? Because sometimes we don't get to everything, and we can tend to get stressed out about that. But Ben, is there anything you would like to share with the audience, what they can still expect on our podcast going forward and where things are going?
Yeah, I think, I would encourage people to go and listen to Anthony's and Charlie's, actually, that we've both, and Joe Gray's, we've referenced all three of those podcasts, those interviews. There's some themes that keep coming up with some of these successful people, as I've spoken about just now. And for a young player or any aspirational player, it's actually so super interesting. There's some individual unique things with each of those conversations, but it's an amazing how often with all of the conversations you and I have had with people, how there's maybe 80% of these themes keep popping up in some form of, and shape or form, and they are worth listening to. They really are, because if you can sort of put that into your life, whatever you do, whether you're working here or here, whether it's your sporting journey, whether it's actually into your life at home with your kids and managing a busy lifestyle, there's so much that you can take from these lessons.
I think, and that's why it's important. We always advise players to always have a bit of a journal or book with them, write things down. That's important. So definitely when you're listening or watching this podcast, make notes. And if you would like us to elaborate about something, please just send us a message on the Lessons from the Game podcast page on Instagram, or leave a comment in Spotify or on the YouTube channel as well. That would be amazing. And honestly, guys, if you're really finding value with everything that we are sharing with you guys, the guests we have on our podcast, please give us some feedback, like and follow us. We really would appreciate that. Will allow us to grow the show. And we keep ourselves accountable, and we always have a hard look at ourselves, because we really want to grow this podcast. We want to turn it into something great, because we've realized that if we can put it this way, not so much our niche, but the people that we are speaking to and the people that are listening to us, Ben, they want to learn a bit more about the game, have a bit deeper insights. We can go the classic route and just having a few laughs and telling a few stories, but that's not what we're about. There's a time and a place for that, but we are really, maybe obsessed is not the good word, we are really passionate about giving them those deeper insights to the game and sharing it with our audience.
Yeah, well said, G. And helping people fulfill their potential,
Yeah.
and that's with the lessons that we've learned and that we bring through our guests. There's so much growth, that we can all, take that way. There's so much growth that we can go forward and learn from.
Oh, awesome. All right, Ben, I'm super excited, because I think for the first time we're going to get under the 20-minute mark. So I think we're going to stop there. We're going to have a hard stop. So awesome stuff. We will definitely be looking at how we can give you better short form episodes, whether it's takeaways from our guests, specific lessons. But in order to do that, we need your help. Tell us what you'd like to know. Send us questions, because that is also a short form episode. We are also still trying to get better ideas. But remember, we have full-time jobs. All right. This is not our main job. This is not our main thing at the moment. Who knows? Maybe one day this thing will become the main thing. But for the moment, it's not the main thing. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop right there. All right, Ben. Have an awesome evening. Chat soon.
Cheers, G.
Ciao. Thank you. Bye.